There was this brief and shining moment in the 80s when it was cool to bring comics to school, and you know, you weren't a nerd. And I'm definitely part of that generation. And then but I never imagined actually working in it, and then I just sort of tripped and fell into it. A friend who had fallen in love with a comic book artist, which, you know, I don't recommend. And they wanted to self-publish a book, and they invited me to write it, and I didn't care for the idea. They called me up and they said they wanted to do Batman meets Silence of the Lambs, which I thought sounded just ridiculous. It's stupid. And then I moved to Mexico for about a year, and when I came back I had no money, and I contacted them and they still needed somebody to write the book. But I was working in this used bookstore and I was getting high every day. I wasn't doing anything, I had no ambition, and I thought, this is my chance, I'm gonna write something really, really commercial. And it turned out to be Violent Messiahs, which in a way is very derivative of a lot of things that you see in commercial comics, but in another way is kind of well, poorly written for one thing, but also just grotesquely ambitious in these weird ways, you know. And but that was my intention. You know, my point was to quit my day job, and I thought, this is it. I'm just gonna become a comic book writer. Fuck it. How hard can it be? I quit my day job in '98. So I wrote that book in the mid-90s, and then we got optioned by Madonna's company, which was called Maverick Entertainment at that time. And this is when I mean, the Hollywood feeding frenzy was insane, right? And so they optioned this terribly written book that I'd done, this black and white book, and I had a little bit of money, and I basically moved out to Los Angeles with, you know, a newfound sense of ambition or whatever. That I was going to come to LA and like, oh, I made all this money off the very first comic I ever wrote, you know. And but it's a lot like, I don't know about you, but when I lost my virginity, I thought, this is it, I'm gonna get laid every weekend now. I'm a man. And then you don't get laid for another 3 or 4 years. That's a lot like it was writing my first comic book. I was like, I'm a comic book writer now, yeah. And then I just went, and then it was forever before I made another dime. But I mean, there was about 4 years of absolute poverty, like complete and utter, just unbelievable poverty. I mean, I was essentially high-class homeless in Los Angeles for 4 years.
And what was that when you had started working for the major companies, or?
Yeah. I mean, I started, well, actually, the very first company to give me a break was the now defunct company called Chaos Comics. And Brian Pulido really liked, we kind of skipped a beat, but we had started republishing Violent Messiahs at Image. And so we got a different artist, Todd Rodrigues, a more commercially viable artist, quite frankly, and colored it. And so we started publishing through Image, and that started to open a few doors, and I started making it to the cons. My publisher didn't pay me to do the book, but I was sleeping on their couch, which I have a hilarious story about that I'm not going to tell right now. I was sleeping on their couch. It's virtually impossible to pick up women in a bar and bring them back home to your couch. And they had this dog that that just like peed everywhere, so and shit everywhere. So it was like fecal matter in the carpet in this apartment I was staying in, and so literally the worst time of my life. And the only thing, and they fed me, that was for writing the book, and they took me to all the conventions.
Wow.
So to this day, honestly, that last one, that's my whole career, is because they took me to all the conventions, and I met everybody who has to this day still become a big part of both my social structure in the industry, but also my professional connectivity to the industry.
How long was it from when you published it the first time to getting it picked up by Image revamped?
Okay, so I published it in black and white. Well, my group, and Hurricane Entertainment was our name, and '96, I believe, or '97, and then we got picked up at Image. First under Jim Valentino, but then he stepped down, and Larry Martyr was put into place before he published, and that would have made it like 2000. Okay. In fact, I believe it came out on the month of my birthday, June 21st, 2000. I believe I might be making that up, but I think that's what happened. So, so essentially 4 years. And in the meantime, I wrote another book for them, you know, that I won't mention, because it's terrible. And I basically learned how to write in front of everybody. And honestly, I haven't figured out how to write a good comic book until very, very recently. I only just recently cracked it, so it took years and years of writing shitty comics, you know. So I now have that albatross around my neck. My past, my shitty comic books are all weighing me down, like Sisyphus pushing shitty comic books up the hill. So that's where I'm at.